Fellas, say goodbye to Chuck Sherman the boy. I am now a man. I highly recommend you join the club. We are doing the wild thing all night.
Acid house music.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sherm.
Sherman, I cook all this food. Is that all you gonna eat?
General Sherman realized and understood the importance of house music.
So, do you know anything about techno?
No.
Listen.
Get it on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new episode of Sherm in the Booth. I'm, of course, your host, Sherm. Today is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020. This is episode 130. I am so excited and so humbled to have this incredible duo on the show. You might have heard them before. They've been making big waves for the past couple years, and it is truly an honor. Episode 130 features none other than Jkyl and Hyde, and this is a name you need to add to the Rolodex if you aren't familiar already. Such a great interview, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear their story. Like I said, they've really been making moves over the past couple years, and have had some big wins in 2020, even with everything that they're up against, so it was so cool to talk to them. In episode 130, we talked about their early beginnings and love for music, and of course, how they came together and the inspiration behind their name, Jkyl and Hyde. We also talked about their journey through sound and over the past couple of years, how they really developed their sonic identity to make it what it is now. What is the Jkyl and Hyde sound? Now, they've had a slew of incredibly successful releases over the past couple of years, and I wanted to ask them what it feels like to release on such massive labels in the dubstep game like Circus, Buygore, and most recently, Subsidia, Excision's new label. That is absolutely massive, guys. Congrats again. Of course, I wanted to ask them about the current state of the music industry and how they've been staying creative and motivated with live shows out of the picture. It's no secret, electronic music community has been hit hard because live shows are such an integral part of an artist's success. But these guys have a plan and it's making good music, and I really like their attitude on it. Like I said, guys, I'm so humbled and honored to have Jkyl and Hyde on the show. They are really motivated, inspiring, creative. I love their energy, and I cannot wait till this is all over so I can be front row at a show as soon as possible. Thanks again for coming on, guys, and enough of me talking. Let's let the guys tell their story for themselves. This is episode 130 with Jkyl and Hyde. All right, Jkyl and Hyde, you guys got a drink in your hand, right?
Cheers.
Here we go. Thanks for making some time, guys. I'm really excited about this.
Hell yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yep, like I said, big fan before we got on, so it's an honor. I'm humbled. You guys are having a huge year, all things considered, not with live shows in the mix, but I mean, I've been talking to a lot of DJs and producers and just trying to stay creative and motivated during this time is tough. So I want to acknowledge you guys for continuing to push forward, release music, really up against the biggest wall. Music industry.
Appreciate that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely something that I feel like a lot of people are struggling with at the moment too. And it is, I would say we're still like battling it, but I appreciate that. It's nice to hear, and it has been a big focus of ours, I would say, to continue to release music for sure, as well as just keep producing during this time.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
How have you guys been doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, not having like shows is definitely a little bit of like a financial hit, but like other than that, I mean, I feel like it's kind of just a battle against yourself, like music wise, like trying to put stuff out during Corona, because it's really kind of the same game. It's just there's not really like that aspect of shows, so you're almost just more focused on like music releases or just like overall content every day.
I think a lot of people too are like at doing more to stand out in a sense, or try to do so, such as like live streaming, playing video games, Discord, interacting with fans in different ways. We've definitely been trying to do more of that, and I would say overall we are doing pretty good. For me, mostly too, the overall quarantine and staying in hasn't bothered me too much, because my like main time of going out would be when we're playing shows on the weekends, and other than that I'm pretty much like a homebody producing and hanging out, playing video games, smoking weed, like, so it hasn't been insanely different. Definitely some days it is a little bit like disappointing just because we did have some exciting things that we were planning on doing, and like even right before or right pretty much after things got shut down, we were supposed to go play in Miami for this DPMO takeover thing with Funtcase, and it was going to be like Versus first show in person. And that got canceled, and I feel like at that time we were kind of like, oh, it's okay to have one hit. We'll see what happens in a few months. Like some of these other shows might still come through.
Yeah,
and
at
now
that time we were like, oh, this show got canceled. Like, we still have another one in April, but then like they all got canceled. I mean, obviously, but
it's definitely been a little bit tough with that. But I would say been doing well, and also been, I feel like both of us, and it's helped moving houses and just getting into a new headspace, but just kind of not necessarily having the pressure. I feel like, especially at the beginning of everything locking down, so many people were trying to reiterate the fact that, like, oh, this is the perfect time to master a new task or like produce as many songs as possible. But in my mind, it's almost a better time to like stop doing that. Just make sure you're doing good and like living clear. I think it's given us a lot of time to reconnect with a lot of people, family, friends, other artists, even in ways that we might not have been able to prior, or everyone is so busy normally with touring going on that like even for us, it's given us time to sit down and do things we typically wouldn't be able to do, whether it be like lessons, feedback for people, going through demo emails of songs that are sent to us. And I can only imagine even on like a greater scale with bigger artists that it is allowing more time for stuff like that. So it's kind of been nice to be able to connect with people in that way too. And I mean, like, at the end of the day, it is affecting everyone in the industry, which is kind of the bright side, where it's like everyone is feeling the same thing.
Totally. You said a few interesting things there that have come up in different ways a lot of times with people. Like, there is the middle ground where this is a time to perfect your craft, find a new hobby, do that thing you didn't want to do. And also at the other end, it's a time where we've never had this sort of time. Like, I don't even know how else to say it, right? Like, I'm cooking more, I'm spending time with my girlfriend more than I ever have. Like, eating, I'm finding out new things about myself. And also at the same time too, it is nice to know, because the music industry is really competitive. You guys know that. You make a lot of friends along the way, but at the end of the day, you're going for the top. And now that everybody's on the bench, that's kind of what I've been saying, right? Like, this is the off season for however long. We're just looking at music in a different way, and consumers are looking at music in a different way. So it's interesting you said artists are playing video games, artists are doing different types of live streams, different types of sets. So you're seeing this other side of artists, actually, which has been really interesting. And
I also feel like some artists are taking different amounts for shows for some of these drive-ins, because like it's just like some of the ones that are getting, like, I don't want to like obviously name names, and I don't know anything, but like just viewing it as a whole, I'm just like, like this person that like I know that like promotes shows like wouldn't like pay this much for this person, but this person would come play here, you know what I mean? Like, but I also feel like it's kind of like one of those things where that's the only show you're gonna get. So, you know, if you want to play a drive-in show, maybe you might have to like compromise. Maybe you might have to like play a different one to like, in terms of like financial stuff. But like, not that any of that matters. It's just interesting to see like who is like still able to play like a lot of like drive-in shows. I can't remember if it was Ace Aura, I probably said his name wrong, or one of the other guys, or Control Freak. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them just played a show here in Denver, like one of those drive-in ones, and I looked on their Instagram and they've got like 5 others like lined up, and I'm like, that's like interesting that like someone's playing, you know, a month's worth of shows all drive. Yeah, exactly.
I think assumptions like that are to an extent, because you guys know you make some sacrifices to get shows here and there, right? But like, it is monetary, and there is a demand, right? Like, there wouldn't be drive-in shows.
Oh, definitely.
show.
Absolutely, exactly.
People are chomping at the bit, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
people want something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's been the interesting thing about live streams, where in the beginning, April, May, anybody could live stream. Everybody was live streaming. And it's funny because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been around, but only until we couldn't play live shows, people started doing it. And
Yeah.
when I started to really think about it, especially with your guys' type of music, and like I'm traditionally a house DJ and a house producer, how many people
cool.
are watching these live streams, are watching it either A, on their TV, B, on their laptop, C, on their phone? They are not getting that speaker experience, man, right? So you
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
like I as like a fan myself, I'm a fan first, and it was hard to enjoy those because I don't have like I have like actually one time I have a sub pack and like nice like hooked up my computer and
Yeah.
like, watched some show with the sub pack on, and
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, okay, well this I don't think everybody has a sub pack to listen to a show, but I'm like,
Dude,
dude,
you know who loves sub packs?
who?
Fucking Funtcase. That
Does he?
motherfucker loves sub packs. Yeah, he's like a brand ambassador for them.
Is
He'll
dude
like sit on a plane with like a sub pack and be playing like Call of Duty or something, like just like full blast. And like if you were to like test it out, you're like, how is this possible?
dude,
Well, and it's like
that is intense.
it's like genius as well though, because like you're
Yeah.
just like totally in it, you know.
It's honestly the first time you put it on people, it's kind of like if you come to my apartment and I know you haven't put the sub pack on, I'm like, all right, come to my room real quick, I gotta show you something. Put it on,
Yeah.
heavy bass song, and they're like, fuck, this is crazy.
Cool.
Like you guys have put it on before. Like it takes a lot of the frequencies on the higher ends out of the headphones that usually kind of like not cloud things, but the sub
Yeah, definitely can like muddy it up for sure.
yeah, it's not really clear, and you feel the bass rather than hear it in your ears.
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept. I really like it.
It really is, and it seems like an expense, and they are expensive, right? But I've convinced so many people to buy them. DJs that I know, especially now in the pandemic, who love DJing, and you can't DJ in your headphones for that long, man. Like after you do the bedroom festivals by yourself, for the first 2-3 years of DJing, you're like, okay, I can't keep DJing by myself like this anymore.
Yeah.
Right? But that's how it goes. Man. That's funny that he does that. That's a little interesting fact.
Yeah. Big gamer though.
Big gamer.
Yeah. He's always balling with the Switch, the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah?
Yeah, that thing's actually sweet. I kind of like wrote it off when I saw it for the first time, and then when I saw it in person and tried it, I was like, okay, this thing's dope. You have like everything you need. You don't need a TV, you don't need a cable, like you just need your Switch, charged.
Dude.
And it's like your friend walks in, like word, pop off the controller from the screen, like no worries.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I got so many questions to ask you guys. You brought up Funtcase, of course. You've had releases in the collaboration, but we're here to get your guys' full story, man. So I want to start at the beginning. Are you guys said before we got on air, you're both from Denver. When did you guys actually meet? Were you both born in Denver then?
Yeah, we went to high school together.
Nice.
Basically, like, we met when, like, kind of, like, around, like, our senior year of high school. And we were, like, both kind of, like Luke has been producing since he was, like, a lot younger than, like, high school. And I had been, like, DJing, basically, since I was a kid, which is, like, weird. But, like, I just kind of always, like, did it in, like, these little, like, camps that my parents put me in.
Yeah.
And then I had CDJs in high school, and Luke wanted to just, like, get better at DJing and didn't, like, basically had, like, a controller or something. And then that had happened, like, a lot. Like, kids from other high schools would, like, hit me up, and we'd, like, mix on my CDJs just because we could. And, like, me, Luke, and this other kid, Jeff, you might know him. His name, he goes by Joof. Yeah, we all went to the same high school, and we would fucking, like, just mix a lot and, like, on my CDJs. And then Luke got some XDJs, and that was, like, kind of, like, the start of our friendship. But, like, music-wise, when we moved to Icon, like, me and Luke, like, nerded out a lot, for sure. And we actually, like, played a show, like, our separate names, but, like, as a back-to-back. And then after that, like, we kind of started talking about, like, doing, like, stuff together because it was just so cool. And, like, we were already, like, kind of headed that direction, like living together, going to the same music school, like
very similar taste. So I think we just kind of.
And it was conveniently around the time that rhythm was getting really big, like 2016.
Yeah.
Like it was already a thing for sure, and I was going to like small little shows in high school with Luke, but like
and I would
it was
say
really
was,
like blowing up when we were at Icon, and that was a big deal at Icon too. Like
it was like it was like a big part of even our influence too. I would say in like DJing styles and like chopping and just the whole kind of culture that's now been built around the word and rhythm and all of that, but
right.
Just like making it reminds me of like old Blood Thinner sets, old Shivers sets, Obey, like just some of these people back in the day in this small room Cervantes in Denver. And like that kind of definitely helped push where we wanted to go sonically, kind of, and what the energy we really strove for was, and more or less.
Me and Luke, I guess, also is like a key point, but something we never really talk about. We shared like the same vision. Like, I remember when he mentioned Cervantes, I remember this night that like 12th Planet came with like a bunch of these really small rhythm artists, and we were just kind of like, what the fuck? And we like had this conversation about how like rhythm's gonna be like big, like, and everybody was saying this shit, but me and him like were really like in gel with the same like opinions of like they're all like playing out these artists that like nobody has ever fucking heard of, and then it happens like more and more, and then all of a sudden like me and him were talking about 12th Planet or like a bigger artist making like a rhythm song, and then what's that 12th Planet song?
Big Rhythm Monster.
Yeah. So like shit like that.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, we just kind of like became really good friends over dubstep, which is a weird thing to say, but yeah.
And then I would say it definitely just transpired through that in like Icon definitely taught us a lot of things just about the way we wanted to go about the brand, I think, overall, and how just different things to consider, kind of taking it from the idea that before school, I wouldn't even say we thought this directly, but more or less didn't just know what all had to go into a music project and thought it was as simple as like making a song, uploading it to SoundCloud, for lack of a better like explanation. And I think Icon, really opened the door to us for like all these new ways to kind of think about it, meeting a few different people. We met our manager, who we're still currently with, Brandon Shack. We met him in LA.
Side thing too about Icon, if you're not like listening to what the teachers tell you, there'll be someone like going to the school that's like utilizing all the like branding shit, and you're like, wow, like this dude's killing it. And it's not like his music is bad and he's just good at like branding. It's just like a whole like picture, you know what I mean? And that's another thing about the school too, I feel like, is you learn so much from the kids that you're going to school with. Like I was going to the school with this kid that I literally met at a taco shop like down the street from Icon, who had a Facebook backpack on. His name's Cody. You'll probably have heard of him. He goes by Somnium Sound.
Yeah.
And
dude,
literally was wearing a Facebook backpack, and I was like, oh, where'd you get that backpack? Like, did you work there? And he was like, yeah, I worked there for like a little bit. And like, you just become friends with people, and then they like show you their music, and you're like hanging out in someone's apartment, and you're just like, what the fuck, dude?
Run
like,
into these people. And I'd say like in that instance, it's been cool too, because there have been some people like Cody, Somnium Sound, he was in school a little before I was, like during, I think, the same time as Duke. Seeing him do so well now has been awesome, and like Songs with Sudden Death, touring with him. Another one who was in the same like class or time frame as I was, he was in like morning class and I was in night class, but Kayvon, if you've heard of him, he just had 2 tracks on the Excision thing.
Yeah.
He does more like future bassy stuff, and just kind of all over like melodic-y stuff. He went there, and then like Effin is the other artist I can think of who's doing pretty well right now. But it's really cool to see like the progression. And I mean, there's probably a handful of names too that I can't even think of, but just seeing these people go from kind of in the same situation we were, not necessarily like lost or directionless, but like coming to Icon with just such a fresh canvas of like, wow, we want to do music, we're committing our time to it. Now this is what we need to do. And through like, I would say relationships there, that's where we really took the Jkyl and Hyde project like seriously into another level. And
There's
at the
always
same
something
time,
extra to learn from some of the kids there. Like I don't know how else to say it, but it's like you finish school and you're like, damn, that was dope. Like I want to go fucking do this like forever or whatever. Like something that they teach you that's like revolutionary or whatever. And then you're just like go to these things called like office hours that are after the classes that are optional, but they're like going on all day. So you'd be stupid not to go. Yeah. And like some of the kids show their songs and show things they did in the song, and then you're just like, fuck what I like learned in class. Like this is fucking insane. Yeah. I don't know, but it's just like that happens like every day.
You're just surrounded by producers for pretty much a straight up year. And it's
and everybody's like in the same headspace, like you said. Like they really weed out the kids who
it's not like DJs at the club, it's like we produce music. As
exactly.
Icon is something of its own, man. I've interviewed many people who've been to Icon, and the coolest thing to me is not only do they give you the opportunity to make music, learn the different aspects of different DAWs and all the just ins and outs, right? But the business side of it, right? A guy I know, he told me that you review contracts for labels. You talk
definitely.
You talk about logos. You talk about media presence. You guys know we came up in a time where you can't just release on SoundCloud, right? You remember like 2010, 2011, 2012? Fucking people like Capslap and Blau would go on tour off of mashup on SoundCloud. They didn't have
you could actually go down the fucking feed of dubstep.net and hear like good songs.
Exactly.
And then it just becomes like flooded with like crap, and then they have like everybody has a Spotify, and then everybody has a fucking
it was very interesting, and I would say it helped us a lot we released that first song. Our first ever label release was with Funtcase on DPMO. Is a song called Midnight Orchestra.
Yep.
And we made it like right around the end of Icon and signed it while we were still in school. And even then, like, it was nice to be able to reach out to teachers and just be like, could you look at this contract? I know it's not legal advice, and you can't tell me anything, but if there's any red flags, like, let me know. I'm new at this. And I would say still some of those relationships still stand. Like, I feel like if there was something Duke and I ran into that we didn't have the resources or our manager didn't to figure something out, we could reach out to someone from the school and just run it by them, depending on what the situation is. But it's definitely really cool. And I would say the other kind of neat perk is that you do get like access forever to the studio. So if we do like anytime we're in LA, we can swing by, and they just built a new building and like get studio time. So that was kind of part of the other incentive to be like, well, this is definitely worth it.
We were definitely at a fortunate time to go there too, because this dude, his name's Leo Corson. He was basically like overseeing and was the agent for like everything on Disciple, every artist on Disciple. Like he was exclusively like their agent. But he was like honestly a really good dude, and like had just been a manager and an agent for so long that like when he would come into like music business class and talk about shit, you're just like you couldn't get fucking enough of it, because you're just like
you just want more Leo.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say along with even
and he
a
ended
few
up
others,
leaving, like
a few other
not
teachers.
for like a salty reason, just because he's like doing bigger shit. Like I think
he started his own
agency. Yeah. Like he's carried a couple of the guys from Disciple, but like, you know, that's what happens too. Like some of these teachers are like you're so lucky to like even have them for like a little bit, you know. And I remember learning just throughout the year that like the songwriting teachers were all like so low key, but they were writing songs for like really big pop artists, and they had like these weird like meditative like mind like frames of mind. Like they're really mellow, and they like felt music in a different way because they just care about like the meaning of the song and like
it's
the lyrics, and
so
like
much
they don't
about, like,
some of them don't play an instrument,
space,
you know, they don't produce a thing, they just write. And I'm like, it like becomes a different like thing for sure. And it's just like,
I know what you mean. That's crazy. So you guys, as you obviously met, you went to Icon together, you were hanging out, you started doing back-to-backs. one of you guys started DJing, one of you guys started producing together too. When did you guys say, like, okay, let's create this duo? And then on top of that, how did the name Jkyl and Hyde come together? I mean, everybody knows the story, and it's actually, I know the story and I forgot about it, so I read it, and it's unpredictability in dual nature, outwardly good, but also sometimes shockingly evil. And I was like, that's exactly the type of music these guys make.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dude, honestly, I feel like I should have mentioned too, like, we both were producing in high school, but that was like kind of how we met, is like we were both producing, but like we started like DJing together just because I had CDJs. Like, that was just how we met, but then we became friends and shit.
And then it was like almost...
And at the time, I was producing in Reason. I was getting taught by this guy. His name's Lewis. He goes
from
by
Coffee, or
he
Coffee.
He goes by
Gentleman's
Coffee,
Club.
yeah. But his name's Lewis. He was really cool. He was living in Denver, and he just posted on his personal Facebook, like, yo, I'm teaching lessons, like, in person. Like, I think it was like $50 an hour or something like that. Like, something super doable, you know? And I just got into it that way. And Luke had already been, like, in Ableton, you know? And I started Ableton, like, right when I got to Icon, and I had been doing Reason up until then. Like, the songs that I used to get accepted in Icon that I sent to them, that, like, everybody does that they probably don't wager too much into the equation. It's more about going out there for the interview and all that stuff. But anyways, I was still producing in Reason. And then that's another reason me and Luke became, like, really good friends at Icon, because once he got there, I was kind of going into my, like, last term of, like, because he got there 6 months after I was going in my last term, and since he already knew Ableton, he was, like, really helpful and shit. And I don't know, we were just kind of, like, always, like, doing shit together. And since I had already gone through the first term, like, I had, like, could help him out with some of his, like, homework or whatever, like.
Right.
And the name, we've definitely gotten that question a few times. It's crazy how it actually, like, came to be, but our good buddy who we live with now currently, and from high school as well, but he does all the graphic work for us, as well as for Monks and Shivers, and everything from, like, cover arts, banners, videos, all the way to, like, our tour visuals. He does that stuff and animates that. We were just like, we had the solid idea that we were gonna want to do this together and as, like, a group, and we just were thinking of a name and kind of ran it by Grant, and he suggested Jkyl and Hyde because of the sense of duality, kind of.
Yeah.
And that it is more or less like a name that people are familiar with, and it rolls off the tongue, and it's like something that catches your eye, but it's not necessarily too overblown of a story. Like, there's not too many instances of it being used modernly in, like, a brand sense. And there were really no dubstep musicians we saw at the time who had anything similar, so we thought that really kind of allowed us to not be drawn into one particular style of music per se. And I would say that as time has gone on, that's became less of a thing, where a producer, I think more producers now are extremely versatile and making a lot of different kinds of music, but we just never wanted that to be a dictating thing of what you're going to experience from us. And kind of more or less, like, vision wise, I would say a really good inspiration and comparison to kind of what we want to do big picture long term is, like, similar to the way Zed's Dead has built kind of this culture behind them. And when you go to a show, more or less, you're like, you're not paying attention to the genre you're hearing as much as you are, like, a Zed's Dead show.
Yeah.
And one thing that's captivated me about them for a long time is that when you go, they play a lot of other people's music, but rarely do the songs sound like they couldn't potentially be a Zed's Dead song, or, like, fit in the Zed's Dead universe. So it's almost this, like, concept of
taste and, like,
like a Jkyl and Hyde universe that we want to immerse everyone in. And we thought that the name off the bat gave us a lot of opportunity to do that and to expand not only with the known past Jekyll and Hyde story, like the play, the musical, all that, but as well as taking that into our own way with the whole concept of it. And I mean, also the fact that we're a duo, I'm not gonna lie, has played into that hugely, because we were like, we want something that when you read it, it sounds like there's two people up there. Like it
just makes sense. And I remember too, like, when I moved into Luke's apartment after school ended, I was like literally living in like the living room with like some fucking curtains, and like we were in a group message with Grant, and me and him were just coming up with such bad names. Grant was actually already starting to do some logos on some trash names that we don't even probably remember now. And he was just like, what about this? And also, like, side story for Grant, like, he's kind of like a little bit of a film buff. I don't want to speak for him, but like kind of into some of that stuff, you know? And like it totally makes sense that he would have like mentioned a name like Jkyl Hyde with like an old book, and like
he's definitely the type of dude to come in your room and be like, yo, I found this crazy vocal sample that you should use from this movie. And it's
we're like, this is obviously it. Like, so it was like literally everything we had been looking for. And because it's like Jkyl Hyde is like also just, I guess, the good and the bad for like a really simple way of looking at it. Because, you know, you have like two characters, one is technically good, one's technically bad.
That duality,
so we kind of figured that was a way of like us being able to do whatever we want musically, even though most of our stuff is like kind of darker. We try and like have like, you know, brighter intros, whatever. Like it's just kind of like it's became just a vibe now. It doesn't like have like a certain like outline, I guess.
You guys have done a great job, and like you said, I mean, you guys mentioned a sonic identity earlier, right? And I think that's something that is difficult to do, especially in the beginning stages. But running through your guys' discography, man, and that's what I'm going to talk about now, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. I can't believe it's already almost end of 2020. But you guys, in my opinion, each release has a little something that has the foundation, the pillars of Jkyl Hyde. But there's something better about it. Like every release, there's a little something better. And it's really cool, you know, to have been following you guys for that long and see you now. And just like, you guys are a tangible story for producers to make it, man. And you guys have stayed true. You guys saw the future, bro. Like you were right. Like you guys were right on the cusp of rhythm, dude, in 2016, man. I mean, seriously, 2017, Midnight Orchestra, right? And then you had 3 releases that year. So how was 2017? You guys finished? You guys stayed in LA that year? You released that track? You graduated. What was that year like for you guys, like as a duo, learning each other, how you work in the studio, starting this brand? It's a new thing.
That was finishing up, and it was actually quite the interesting time, because like 2017 to in January to summer, because I finished school at Icon in summer of 2017. Duke finished in January. Little like crazy fact, his lease ended 6 months before mine, obviously. And we were just thinking like, well, we're just getting this started. We don't really want to be apart. So he literally moved into my apartment and used curtains, like heavy-duty shower curtains, to section off the dining room and turn it into a bedroom.
And I had my fucking Yamahas set up in there,
just like a tiny studio,
like on chairs, and then I had a chair like cut off as like a desk, technically, like with a Focusrite or whatever.
And then when so it was like 6 months of that, which ended up working out in the long run, and I'm really glad it happened, because it would have probably been harder if he went home and then tried to come back. But then we ended up getting a place, and it was me, Duke, and then 4 or 5 other roommates at one point in time, and they were pretty much all from Icon, either my former roommates, Duke's former roommate, and then one friend of ours from high school who was going to film school. Lived out in Glendale, California, like a little east of North Hollywood. And that was, I'd say it was a good time too, because it was when we first kind of had totally our own spaces. We had a house, so we didn't have to worry about noise. That was the biggest problem that we had in the apartments.
Right.
Because unlike a sub pack, I just have a fat ass subwoofer, so it'll just let the neighbors know that we are making music. And having a house was incredible for that. And just kind of a lot of also figuring out, like, I think it set in for me really hard when I got out of Icon. That was just like, all right, well, now it's like on you to do this shit. Like, you don't have school every day. You don't have teachers telling you that if you want to do music, you got to make it happen. And throughout the course up until like just recently, we've just been going house to house each year, like with pretty much the same roommates. And then Evan Joystick hopped in the picture after a year after Icon, and it had just pretty much been like music all the time since then. And other than that, working side jobs here and there to pay the bills.
Dude, you got that. I mean, you don't want to say classic, but it's the classic. Like, we did what we had to do, man. I love
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Shower curtain.
Yeah, and I would say that was definitely still like a pretty exploratory time in what we were trying to do sonically. We were still definitely learning things, and it's interesting you brought that up about that each song sounds like that, because I think that's also kind of been a staple value for us from the beginning, that each release, and I would say more or less actual song we produce, but we don't always release the songs in the order we produce them, but like we always want each song to be better than the last one almost.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we've really strived for, and something that has been throughout, probably starting in around 2017 up until even now to this day. It's just like constant learning and improving on what we can do, as well as like how to be more unique almost, and not even unique, but just make what we want to hear. Like I feel like at the end of the day, I often find myself listening through our back catalog of released and unreleased songs, and just like driving in the car and putting on a mix of our shit, and then like feeling the timelessness for some of those tunes. And I would say there's definitely songs that we've put out more or less even before, when we had that DPMO release, Midnight Orchestra. Before that, we went by Jkyl Hyde, but spelt it JekYll, like the full spelling.
Yeah.
And we had put out a few songs, and like looking back, I like that they're there, and it's cool to see the growth. But it's just almost astronomical sometimes listening when I'll go back and like listen to those and then play unreleased stuff, and I'm just like, oh man, everyone who doesn't have this private SoundCloud is like in for it in 6 months to a year when this song comes out. Like,
Good to get growth to you guys, though. 2017 was big, and you guys really, obviously, just from hearing that story, develop your brand, your sound. 2018, Throwing Smoke EP comes out in Disciple. You also have a Eyes on Fire Zed's Dead remix that fucking blasts off on SoundCloud, bro. And of course, Berserk Sudden Death remix, casual 140K plays on on Spotify, boys. I mean, fuck
yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was definitely
That was a big time for us, honestly.
Yeah.
Release music wise.
And I would say that's like right around in between that 2017 2018 time is when we were introduced to our manager through a mutual friend, and kind of set that up and started more or less like game planning for the project, how we wanted to really do things. It set up that Disciple contact through our manager, as well as actually shout out Isaiah, because he like helped us out a lot with contacting Rossi, the owner of Disciple, Myro, and got our music in his hands. And that was, I'd say, just a really big point, because it was like, damn, not only are we getting this Funtcase song signed, which was at the end of the day like just such a crazy opportunity how it even happened, because I had just been like DMing James about Rocket League, like not even about music, and then one time saw him tweet before DPMO was even like announced being a thing. He was like, send me music, and I DM'd him 2 songs, and then he just responded and was like, I want to sign Midnight Orchestra. And it was just like, holy shit, what? Like almost surreal. And I feel like the Disciple EP really like toned in for us, like, fuck yeah, we can really, like, here's 4 tracks that we feel kind of represent us a little better, and like here we are. And
we decided too that we didn't want to be a part of any like particular label as like an exclusive like 360 type deal. Right. And then it was cool because we got, you know, Brandon on board, and like Brandon was super helpful with all that, and we ended up releasing with all those labels. Not that any of them in particular like wanted us or anything. It was just like we proved that it was possible for someone with like themselves and maybe a manager that notices them, which is you could handle that, and then like, you know, someone you trust to help you out, and you can release on like all of those labels, at least as like a single or something. But
right,
the Berserk remix was tight too. I would say that ended up being a bigger tune than we thought it was gonna be.
Sick.
Definitely like pretty experimental in terms of what people are used to for us, I would say. Like more along the mid-tempo-y and then drum and bass vibes.
Yeah.
But that, I think, is literally the reason it won the comp.
Yeah.
And like we actually made a dubstep-y remix of it, and then we're just like, we're just gonna scrap this because there's no way we're gonna make a better song than the first one if it's a dubstep song. And I think the different approach really like helped it stick out for that matter, as well as kind of introduce us to Danny, to Sudden Death, and AFK, and we're pretty like, we talk to him pretty frequently now.
That's awesome. Big year. Yeah. You really, I mean, so 2017 obviously forming Jkyl Hyde, we get the sound. 2018 we have some big fucking awards. I mean, in my opinion, right? When I always talk about people and getting releases and sort of these like steps that you take, like, to me, you guys got some fucking chains on, bro. 2018. 2019? Start recognizing real, dude. I mean, Buygore, Newsstand Killers, come on, Blood Thinners. That was fucking sick. You mentioned them earlier. What was it
that
like?
That one was special.
Buygore, dude. I mean, that's huge.
Pretty chill, yeah. And they're awesome. It's been cool. Just, I would say, too, in the end of 2018 is when we really started playing bigger shows.
Right.
And then like kind of seeing some of those people, like I would say Blood Thinners and Decimate are 3 dudes, technically 4 at the time, because Decimate was also a duo. Now it's just Ryan. But like we would always see them wherever we were playing. And it was nice to end, because of like DPMO having both releases on there with Midnight Orchestra, and then following up with the second with Yoy Boy on there.
Yep.
It was we got some recognition on that tune, like from the Savage Society guys. Blood Thinners were playing it out. We were kind of like sending music back and forth mutually. And then that's more or less how I think we were just like, let's start a tune.
Yeah.
And that really ended, cool they're awesome dudes, and every time they kill it, every time they play. And it was kind of like a cool full circle thing, just because we had seen them back in the day. It always is a trip when you like.
Crazy how many videos there are at Cervantes on YouTube. They're like, you can not only see someone that like we like worked with or like still huge fans of, and that are like now really big. Right. And then you can also see like either my tall ass in the crowd, like in the video, because they're such small shows. They happened on Tuesday nights too. Shout out Electronic Tuesdays, but they don't happen anymore, sadly. But anyways, like it's that stuff's always a trip. That's why the Blood Thinners one was really special, because like I don't know, you can always sense when that type of stuff is gonna happen. But we've just been big fans of them for a while.
I mean, I thought that was cool, man. And then when I heard you mention it earlier, I didn't realize like you had that pass. So I really like to hear that full circle stuff. Bad Dreams, though, hundreds of thousands of plays, guys.
Yeah, same concept with Decimate. Like
Yeah.
it was just like becoming mutual friends with him. All the Savage Society boys are pretty tight with like Monks and our manager Brandon and Shivers. Like they're all pretty good friends, so we definitely would hang around them, see them at shows, and I would say that just kind of like hit it off and really fuck with, like, still to this day. Ryan is making really sick shit for Decimate. There's some crazy tunes, and same with Jono, who was part of the duo at the time and now does his own project Redline. But like they both are great producers and great people, and we always had like such a fun time whenever we saw them. So I think that just kind of also happened in such a mutual manner where it was like we're just sending tunes back and forth for months, and then we're like, we should get something together and see what happens with it.
Yeah.
And it ended up being, pretty a good one. And I would say it was cool too, just to have like kind of that follow up on Disciple.
Yeah.
To be like, well, here's this EP we put out a year ago, and now this tune's like even bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what I meant earlier, man. Like you guys, I mean, you stuck your flags in the ground, right? But like you kept going. And I think that's hard to do, man. You like it's possible to have a great release, right, as a producer, and it's even harder to continue following that up on that sort of level of label, that sort of level of production. What was it like for you guys then, having these wins? Did you feel the pressure? Did you guys motivate each other? What was it like in the studio, like having that? You know what I mean?
I think with the shows, it was a little bit easier, which would sound weird, I feel like, to just anybody, but well, not like it's like, anyways, I just think that helped a lot because we were really busy at the time. Like we were always like we were busy enough to where, like, I mean, shout out Brandon, by the way, but Brandon's always like helped us out with music releases, but we were so busy at that time where we were like sometimes couldn't always like focus on everything for like the proper amount of time. And like, you know, it was like we definitely had like music releases like in the works, and
I think
just
playing songs out at shows,
being distracted.
I think another thing that kind of has always kept us going is that like throughout, and this is due to Icon, I think, and some teachers just saying like, if you want to be successful, 2 out of every 10 songs you make are going to be hits, the rest are going to be trash, and you got to deal with that, and like you just got to make them. So like we've had and have, and I know will continue to just have such a hefty back catalog of unreleased music. Like I'd say starting about the end of 2017, we were probably sitting on like 20 plus songs that hadn't come out yet. Yeah. So then that was a good feeling, just in the sense that if we do get a little swamped, like with shows, with releases, we have things to fall back on. And then at the same time, seeing these releases do well, not only was like a confidence booster production wise, but I would say really like evident to us and showed results when we did start playing shows. Like the first half of 2019 is when we really started playing like a pretty good amount of shows, and we're doing like every other weekend with Monks.
Yeah. And
then it only kind of started picking up from there to where we like did the World of Wonk tour with him. Mm-hmm. And I think that was just motivating in itself, that like we can, if we keep making tunes and stay on top of it, then it'll only like go up. And I think Broadcast too, I believe, came out in like March of 2019. Mm-hmm. And that was just a really fucking cool one, because Never Say Die has always been such a heavy influence, and not even to like rank labels per se, but at that point it had felt like we'd crossed so many things off the list. Like we'd released with Circus twice with DPMO, we'd released with Buygore twice with the Blood Thinners, and then a Point Blank collab, and then Disciple twice. We were like, Never Say Die is the only one remaining on like this dubstep label list we have kind of in our heads that we really wanted to get a release on.
Yeah.
So we were super stoked for that tune once we got the news that they wanted it. And then I would say the actual like performance of it blew us out of the water, like how well it did on the compilation. And that was probably the first song we had that like was really a standout song where like people in the crowd would sing it back to us and shit, and we were like, oh damn.
And I also feel like we kind of discovered a little like thing with like every good release now that like is doing well after we release it. We always like start up like a VIP of it, because we also have like the broadcast VIP, and like not every time is it like a thing for every like bigger release, but and especially obviously not remixes, but it's just not a bad look, especially for like labels too. You know, you could always like have something else come to fruition just because the first song goes well, and you have like a cool VIP of it. You know.
Yeah, it was definitely a really
it was just
really
so
good
eye-opening
time too. And I would say too, then that's when last summer, in summer of 2019, we went to China. So it was our first time playing internationally.
Real.
And that was pretty surreal. Yeah, it was just really, really cool to see. Like,
fucking China, guys, come on.
The fans were crazy there.
Yeah, the fans were crazy. The production and like the production value of the whole thing felt like a festival inside of a nightclub. Like insane LED screens and shit and lasers and like they took care of us so well and just made sure we had everything we need. Like it was one of the best shows we played, even though we were jet lagged as shit and like landed at 6 a.m. had to play at like 1 a.m. the next night.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
After like a 16 or 14 hour flight. It was crazy.
There's always the more on a not that it was like that much of like a budget show, but the more on a budget you are, you know, if you're a smaller artist, like crazier your travel plans can be, you know. Like that was just the way we had it worked out. Yeah, like but
it was a really cool experience and just
so cool. Yeah.
Very eye-opening to see that our music could like take us internationally. It felt good to get booked out there. It was like even a headlining show. So we had like a 20-foot poster of us out in the hallway of the club, like outside and shit. Like they just go so all out and like made sure the room was packed for when we went on, and like just very, very surreal experience.
Yeah, they know what they're doing over there for sure. Like it was cool, you know.
That's so cool though. Like the two buddies, high school buddies from fucking Colorado, got their poster in China.
Yeah, it was a cool time too, because that month we were like getting ready for, obviously it was a little ways away, but we were still like thinking about like Lost Lands in September. And we also had like a really big opportunity come our way like sometime around then to go to Europe with and Cookie Monsta, R.I.P. obviously, the GOAT. But yeah, we went to, like, it was just a cool time that we got to, you know, experience playing our first international show and then go to like 2 other countries, as well as like do a music festival in like the same like 4 or 5 month time span. And it was like all with like bigger artists, especially at the, you know, at Lost Lands. You know, we're just surrounded by like all of the people that are like make up of like the dubstep scene. You know, it's different than being at a show with like a stacked lineup show in a green room. It's way different than that. It's like everybody is there and you're kind of uncomfortable. Like, anyways, but
you're just like, holy shit.
And I would say like,
holy shit, that's them. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Literally.
Yeah. And then like I would say when we went to go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, I mean it's crazy. I was gonna say like 2019 was huge. 2020, like, although you know, of course, 3 months into the year things stop, but this has been the big pieces, guys. Like,
it would have been big. We won't like say like a bunch. We definitely had like another international like tour like set up, and obviously like that show in Miami was going to be really big because it was just over Miami Music Week, and there was going to probably just be packed places everywhere no matter what genre of music it is. And that's a cool vibe just because you have opportunities for like new fans and new people to like hear your music. Like who knows who's going to be, you know, at Miami Music Week. There's just such a broad audience, and we were just, you know, stoked on all that stuff. Anyways,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I
it
was supposed to go to Miami
a cool time.
And I was so sad. Like I was gonna do Winter Music Conference. I was literally gonna like bring podcast gear and like stop people in their tracks. If I knew. I know, I just like it's an energy that you want to experience, and it'll happen again one day. But
and the last show we played was in Denver, actually, at the Summit, and we had like Grant there, who does the visuals as well, and he was like doing them like on like an Akai controller, like himself as well, for like us and Monks, and like Monks wanted to like do it on other shows, and we were so ready to like have him at like all of our shows, and we were trying to like do kind of like what we talked about with the Zed's Dead stuff, like more of an immersive experience, and like playing a lot more of our own music. And we were like really testing some shit out at that show, and just testing it, and learned a lot. And then it just like COVID happened, and we were kind of like at that time period really bummed out about that. But it was motivating because, you know, like you said about all the past music releases that we've had, we were really excited about what we can do not playing shows, you know, just trying to like release on as many labels or have our self-releases do as good as they possibly can, you know, as many people like hear them and whatever, you know.
I mean, you guys have really, I mean, this year diversified, right? Like 2020 Spade Death, last like Bounce with Funtcase, of course, and again, RIP to Cookie Monsta. That was on Circus, right? Yeah, that was sad, bro. But you guys have had some streaming success this year, like that's not easy to do in electronic music, right? Because especially for you guys, right? Like you make high energy music that you want to hear live, and it's great to listen to music that you know you might see that weekend and shit, but you guys are still doing really well. So that's why I truly believe in your guys' music, because people who love your music, right? They're not just like, oh, I'm excited to see a dubstep show this weekend or a rhythm show, right? It's like, oh, I genuinely love their music. And I think that's special. I'm sure you guys know that.
Yeah.
That is important, man.
Yeah.
I would say that's been something too that's even kept us going, like in the past on multiple occurrences, seeing that like in China, the fact that there was even one person there who knew our music was insane. And there were like a good handful, maybe like 20 people. And then it was incredible too, just because like we're American DJs. They want to see who it is. Like they're hyped on it. Like, and then in Europe, it was just even more surreal because the amount was like overwhelming. How many people were like, I've been following you guys for 2 years now. I'm so glad you guys came to Budapest. I'm so glad you came to Paris. And just that whole like vibe.
Yeah.
Playing like the first night we played with Chime and Funtcase.
And also that night, 2 kids in the crowd were like holding up this like sign that says "Play Some Stranger Twins," and they're like a cool like duo that we found out about. And I guess one of them is do you say it Holly?
Hall, I think. Hall. It's like HOL with an exclamation point.
They're doing like really well right now. We had never heard of them at the time, and we were like trying to legitimately like read what they were saying because we like really like gave a fuck. We were like, these kids are so cool. Like, anyways.
It was just a very like
it was crazy,
great experience. The second show was in Paris with Funtcase and Cookie,
and that was like kind of a cool night because like we just like we had a lot of time that day because we were just all stuck there together in the same hotel,
and
we
just
were,
like hanging out with them with his passing. Like I've been watching all these old Funtcase vlogs of just like them touring in the past 10 years, and like just the way that James and Tony acted together was an unreal relationship, and something that I'm so lucky we got to see in person that night. And then that show was just surreal because we played after Cookie, who played after Funtcase. So Funtcase played at like 4 a.m. Cookie played at 5 a.m. We played at 6, and we were like, oh my god, it's gonna be so dead. Like the crowd's gonna be probably like half gone. Just walk in and it's a full ass sweaty room.
It was sick.
amazing
It was
show. And then we like after we played, we probably like hung out in the venue for like 30 minutes, an hour. And even when we left at like 7 a.m, it was still just a packed fucking room. Like it was an insane energy. And then the first night actually, or I think it was either the first night or the last night, but we got to play a back-to-back with Funtcase for a little bit, which was really cool. And just like a bucket list experience in that regard.
That was the first night, I think.
Yeah, the first night. And then
it was really cool.
Yeah, it was and then we had like a week off in Budapest, and at that point it was just a lot of like surreal just taking it in was kind of surreal, the fact that like, damn, we're in another country.
We had to go do laundry because like, oh man, we have crazy pictures.
Just
but
like,
I get like sweaty on stage, man. Like, especially in some of those sweatbox venues that they had in France. Like, I'm not even kidding you, dude. Like soaked, and like I just put them in like a dirty laundry bag that you get at like the hotel that they have in the closet, and I just accumulated sweaty clothes. And then we got to Budapest. We have a week off, and I like opened it, and like he opened his too, and it was just like smelled so bad. And then we're like walking into like laundry places, and like no one like wants to take our clothes because like they smell so bad. And then we had to go to, but like we found like a laundromat that was like self-service, but it was just like cool stuff like that. I feel like Budapest is one of those cities where you can try so many different like types of good food, like Turkish, Italian, German, obviously Hungarian, and then you know just tons of like countries that surround that area. And it was just like, yeah, it was a really cool experience. I feel like in China it was kind of just like little time, like lots of shit to do. And then like when we went to like Europe, we were kind of like more seasoned and like comfortable with the whole like process of like traveling internationally too, so we just like had so much better time. We obviously like had less time the first day we got in after our long flight, so it was nice to just like play right away and then go to sleep. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was. It's been cool too, just being in a duo too, like, you know, like you said, like two friends from high school, like we help each other out when we're like traveling, or like if one of us is like tired, it's just nice to have like someone else there, you know, to like grab you an orange juice. I don't know.
Yeah, wake you up, make sure you're literally like I'd say there's
legitimately
even just encountering things that were like, what is this? Like we're in not a third world country. We're in a foreign country where we like are just so unfamiliar with the culture and things that could be as normal as like getting money out from an ATM or doing laundry. Like it's nice that we have each other to walk around on the street with when we're trying to figure out if someone speaks English or like find an ATM. Like
I love that guy.
It definitely makes the travel part a lot easier having another person.
Sure. I mean, it's obvious after talking to you guys, you both wear your heart on your sleeve. So you guys combined are very genuine, and I can just imagine you guys walking around being like, so, what type of food is this? Should we try?
Right. Yeah. Legit.
Right?
Oh,
I love that, man. Well, on that note, like, what have been some of your favorite shows? You mentioned all these places. Are there any, like, just low-key spots, or your biggest, or is it different for you guys both? But one, of course, having your different experiences.
I'll say we'll both answer. You can go first.
I don't know. I think it was really cool getting to play Space Yacht in Los Angeles, just because, I don't know, I feel like, that's Sound Nightclub, right?
Yeah,
and
sick, right?
I don't know. I feel like when you see like just older like shows in the 80s and stuff, like in Hollywood and stuff like that, like it's always like this big like hype thing. And I felt like Space Yacht for a long time was always like that thing of like new and upcoming talent, kind of LA,
kind of
at
seeing
some point
Space
in time.
Yacht grow too, from when we first moved to Icon, and it was like not at Sound Nightclub, but it moved venues every week, and like, or not every week, but it was like smaller venues. They were changing more frequently. It was free. There was the first Space Yacht I went to was like Snails, Virtual Riot, Barely Alive.
Jesus.
Just like an insane lineup for $0 that
But
I didn't
also,
even know I was going to. And then seeing that like culture immerse through them, putting on all these cool shows, it was so sick. to while living, like just be part of that multiple times too. We've played it 2 times and it was great, both experiences.
They also kind of have the cap on like up and coming talent, like at some point is going to be in Los Angeles, and when they are, they play Space Yacht, and like people kind of know by like watching on social media if someone's like in LA, and then it's like Space Yacht's happening and they like post a flyer or something or whatever, like something like that, and it's just cool to see like and be a part of like, oh yeah, you guys want to play Space Yacht like tonight, and like that's how it kind of works, and like people just show up and
I think the first time we played Space Yacht 2 was like right kind of in the middle of when we were doing this Monks tour, this World of Wonk tour. And it was like pretty much every weekend we were playing a show and flying out somewhere, and then just on like one of the Tuesdays in between. I think it was actually the week before we had our LA World of Wonk show, and it was just like, oh, you want to play Space Yacht tonight? And it ended up working so well. And it was like, yeah, seriously, one of the best energy shows we've ever had. I just remember that I was so sweaty and like so hot that I was like, I think I might pass out. Like 10 minutes in, I was like, Duke, if I have to like leave the stage and go get water really quick, like you're gonna keep going, we'll be good. But it was such a, and I think that first time too, actually, I'm pretty sure Funtcase was in town, so he was like,
he was like chilling there,
hanging out, and just all the people who would always be there was such a cool like environment to see. Like people even joke about it and shit, that the VIP area is just like almost more crowded than the crowd even.
Yeah,
because it's just like,
but it's like real ass people, you know, like you're crowded in with like
all the disciple dudes,
virtual, right? Yeah, like all the disciple dudes always. And then we'd see like our teacher Leo Corson there. He was actually there when we played the first time, and he didn't even know we were playing, and he was like, "Wow, I'm so proud of you guys." But yeah, it was just like those are always like special because like you really like, I hate to like always like go back to like Icon, but I just remember my frame of mind was always like looking up to like shit like that because it's right in front of your face. Like you could go and see it if you wanted to. And a lot of kids at Icon did go out on the weekends, and I feel like me and Luke kind of like didn't do that as much, but like always kind of like fantasized about it, and it's just like always cool to be a part of it. So
I would say too, thinking back on it, like probably that Paris show with Cookie and Funtcase was
another special
just
thing.
Yeah, really, and obviously because of playing with them and their legends, but the fact that like it was in Paris, it was such a like what you would think of as a Paris club that plays dubstep, like fucking grimy, cigarette smoke, sweaty.
We come outside, someone's like grilling
I
corn,
walked in there and my glasses just fogged up. Like it was like you just insane, and that was a very like intimate, low ceiling club too. And I think those shows are always really special, where it's like you are face to face with the crowd nearly.
Yeah.
Lost Lands was really special too, just because it was our first ever like big festival. It was for the DPMO thing. It was quite the like travel experience. We had to leave at 5 a.m. the day we played to arrive at like 5 p.m. after connecting flights in Ohio. Jesus. And then played at 1 a.m. to like close out, because we were playing the sound camps, and it was like the DPMO sound camp. So just a crazy lineup, like Ominous, Blood Thinners, Savage Society guys. And then we had to fly out at 4:35 a.m. Nice. So pretty much had to leave the festival to go to the airport, to then fly from Ohio to New York, have like a 2-hour layover, and then hit a New York to LA flight.
Like a really long,
and then arrive back in LA at like 8 p.m. Yeah. Like it was such a long day.
We don't want to make anyone look bad. We were just kind of like in a position where the way we were just learning this, right? Like that's the thing. It was our first music festival, and like you had to like pay for a hotel that you got discounted as an artist, but you had to do it like way in advance, and we knew that, but we just passed on it obviously, and like
because we were like, oh, do we need a hotel? We're gonna be out of the festival.
Yeah. His girlfriend also was gonna be was there with like some friends at the time, so we thought maybe we'd stay with them.
And we were
But
like,
then-
oh, we'll be able to put our stuff in like your thing or whatever. Like,
and then it's like we, didn't get a hotel and booked our flights, so that way we wouldn't need one. But it was like, just
looking
like,
back,
yeah,
we
it was
probably
such a
would have wanted to go to the
long trip.
festival the first day, enjoy it those 2 days, be able to rest up in our
Yeah.
hotel room and shower before our set, and then chill and not have a
Just
flight
dazed
out
and
at 4
confused,
a.m.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's part of the learning for sure.
Yeah.
But it was a fucking awesome experience.
Also just feel like it was like a bit like more awkward than normal green rooms, to be honest. Like you're surrounded by all these cool people. I talked to this guy who's done like Excision's like PK sound like head like board, basically ran like his sound system for like the past like 10 years or something, which is insane to talk to a guy like that, right? But
Yeah, of course.
you're in these like little like trailers kind of like you have at school that are emptied out and kind of like made to look like all cute, but like they're like hot as fuck and like small, and like everybody wants to be in one, and they actually don't like have everybody their own one. So like you just kind of like trade in and out when like someone's about to play, they like occupy one and it's all set up and scheduled. And you'd be in one for like someone's like period of time, just like sitting there, and like it's just a different experience. It's very routine when you show up to a show. You get there like about a couple hours before you
And
play.
you're just
everybody's-
surrounded by all these people. Like, I don't even want to say starstruck because everyone is just a fucking human. But like,
Yeah.
it is just so crazy when you're like, damn, I was like having this conversation with my parents about being like celebrity struck, and I was like at Hard Summer when I saw Skrillex come out on stage. That was like the most like starstruck I've been, because it's almost like I've seen this person that I know through videos and shit, but they're in real life.
Right.
And they're like actually a human in front of me. And it was almost like Lost Lands was that times just every single artist who was there.
Right.
And like it was nice. I'd say it was awesome too that we did have like a good amount of mutual friends and artists there. Like all the DPMO guys we knew before Lost Lands, and like James and Cookie we'd hung out with. So it wasn't as like, oh hi, I'm like, hello, good to meet you, Excision. Like,
Yeah,
but
hi.
it was just
And everybody's and then it's like you're with like I couldn't remember which like DJs were next to us, but you're with like other artists that are like kind of like you, like
Right.
someone you're. I hate to compare everything to like followers and size, but whatever. Like someone in our position next to us also trying to say hi to him. Like you have a swarm of like I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
You see
it's
the
a really
Slander boys, everybody's trying to say hi to them.
And I think like it would be in that regard too. That's where kind of looking back, we do wish we would have had a few more days just to kind of hang out and like
just have a home base. Like we were kind of uncomfortable because we knew we didn't have a hotel, we didn't have like a place to go, we didn't
One night.
With the green room, it's kind of easier because you can at least sit on a couch. But like,
and
we were just
even
kind
like
of,
the preconceived thought of being like, okay, well, we're gonna play this set, and then after we don't have anywhere to shower, and we're gonna have to go like change shirts and get on a flight and go to New York and then go to LA. Is like,
and it was so funny because we literally got on our flight and there was like so many people from Lost Lands. We saw like Cod Dubs. This dude had like a dinosaur costume and like just didn't give a fuck. Like, still had it on, like puts his seatbelt on, and I'm just like, this is the coolest flight ever. Like
everyone's just so slumped from the 3-day festival.
Yeah.
The you're walking in, the security is
sleeping
like,
in the
oh,
airport,
you're from the festival too,
They
huh?
took over the city, dude. Like it honestly, it's what you expect when it
It's
comes
quite
to a
the
music festival.
experience, yeah.
Like I can only imagine what EDC is like on the Vegas Strip. Like not that EDC happens on the Vegas Strip, but like people stay there in the hotels and they party, and like I don't know, it's just crazy to see everything.
Jesus, man. That was a great answer. I mean, Lost Lands is like the pinnacle of. I mean, do you guys think like Lost Lands is the a movement of dubstep? Like it's.
I
weird.
would say
Yeah.
for
I
the
guess-
dubstep and like heavy bass culture, I think it's literally the place to be in that regard.
And I guess our goal would be to kind of like get out of the sound camps, and not in a bad way. Like we were actually so happy to be at
course.
Lost Lands, especially for fun cases like Sound Camp, where like this is dope. Like he picked good artists, and like we're all like
It was
happy to be
almost
here.
cooler than it would have been if we were just booked for the sound
Yeah.
camps independently. It was like, damn, we're part of this DPMO thing.
Yeah,
like this is
James wants us there. Like it's not just like, you know, some random thing. And then it's just like we realized that like, you know, like every release that we have, we want it to be better than the last one. Like, you know, we want to come back and play like maybe a set like kind of during the daytime that's part of the live stream, and like, you know, establish more of our own name, because like that's the end goal, right? Like, you know, especially going back to like that Zed's Dead stuff, like it just when they play, like it's just kind of like a really big like experience, you know.
We want to
Like,
play Lost Lands enough times that we can then have our own sound camps and bring artists.
I can't believe it's not Zed Festival yet. I'm like shocked.
oh yeah. Dead Rocks, actually, people would argue. Well, the thing is, it's like nothing at Red Rocks is treated like a music festival. People go to their houses, they leave Morrison and then come back to kind of like.
There's not really
not any
camping
on-ground
and
camping.
stuff,
You know, it's not like.
And there's really only one stage too, pretty much, that you can really like take advantage of.
But they do a really good job with like stuff like that, and I think I don't know, especially for Zed's Dead to have any type of like thing. I think they did it right, not expanding too much. But like you're saying now, they probably should like expand even more to having like some type of like Dead Rocks like music festival in other places. You know.
Zed's Dead to me, actually, when I first really started getting into electronic music, I think I was a junior in high school, and it was Dead Mouse, and then Skrillex came out with Scary Monsters, and I got really into that. And then Zed's Dead kind of in the interim there, I think I was a freshman in college, went to see them in a small venue in Indianapolis. And that was when Coffee Break had just come out, and this was, goddamn, I'm feeling old, but I think it must have been 10 years ago. You know what I mean? I love that. And I went to, I think, 9 Zed's Dead shows in 3 years or something like that. And they big in Chicago. You guys know how big they are in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
2 nights at Aragon Ballroom, both nights after shows at Concord. I mean, fucking shit.
Yeah. Jeez.
So I brought that up because you guys, to me, you guys can do something just like them. Maybe even bigger and better. Just like keep doing your thing, because they prove that, and so many others prove too, right? I think you talked about Icon a lot. Of course, somebody, PD Clicks, right? One of the night bass guys. He's there all the time. AC Slater has proved. I think he just celebrated 5 years of night bass. 5 years ago, nobody gave a flying fuck about night bass, dude. Now there's night bass festivals. So just
literally
thing, right? And it's
hard for real,
because I think it's incredible. You guys have had success, but you've had some ups and downs. Course, right?
Yeah, persistence is key. Literally, just never stopping. You know,
never stop. My question was going to be, what advice do you have to people that, you know, at your guys' level, you've had success, you've had failures? What would you say to people that were in your position like you were in 2016, 2017?
To try and work hard, especially like if you have an idea of what you want to do. I felt like I spent a lot of time in like high school, especially kind of waiting on what I wanted to do. Like I was like still doing like sports and all this like weird stuff, like all, not that sports are weird, but like I was doing all types of stuff, and I should have just like kind of thrown everything to the curb and really like put my head down with music, but I kind of only did that the last 6 months of high school. And I don't know, it's just like that through and through has always been like people's kind of like secret weapon, is like working hard. I feel like is
and I would say too, like if you do know that is what you want to do, just give it literally everything you can, and don't really worry about like the timeline, to be completely honest, because if you do look at it and break it down, like on this Subsidia release, like we're an up and coming artist per se, I feel like, more or less. And even in the grand scheme of things, like we're like up and coming, and we're 5 years deep into it almost. Like, so it's just like I would say, don't worry about comparing yourself and just give it all you got, because you never really do know. Like at that same time, there's so many producers out there right now who are like 15 to 17 years old and just smashing it, like making insane music.
It's insane.
So I would say like, and it makes me look back, and if I could like talk to like 15, 16-year-old me, I'd be like, focus literally what Duke said, like focus all your attention into this. And it's obviously so much easier said than done, but like if you truly want to make it happen, look at the things you can do to make that happen. Like look at if schooling like Icon or something similar is an option, like do something like that. Invest your off time into like YouTube tutorials. There's just so much out there that is accessible for people to learn that I think if you truly do like really want it, you could within a year start from scratch and end up like producing songs that are good enough to make some noise.
Right.
And like Versa is a great example of that. Like not even in that specific time frame, but in like a very short amount of time, and he's not been producing for too long, has made just like insane leaps and makes music where like now Funtcase plays out like 4 or 5 Versa songs a set, and people are just asking for it, and he's built up a following just off of that. And like a Chaos, more Kismet, all these artists who are like under 20 years old, and some of them even younger, like more Kismet is 15, and just they're smashing it. Like just insane music, insane vision for the project, insane level of maturity for that age.
Yeah.
But I really do think that like if you think that you want to do it and you're taking strides in the right direction, giving it all your like everything you have, it will never hurt. And then you look back and you can't like regret it. I think that's been a mindset that's made me make a lot of decisions, like even going to Icon. I just knew that if I went to a 4-year school out of high school, I would look back and think like, damn, I could have went to Icon and who knows what would have happened. And then now looking back when we're in like China or Europe, I'm just like, holy shit, I got to follow my gut all the time, because now we're literally like doing something that would have been unimaginable if I went to college. Like I'd still be in college, just have graduated college. There's no way I would have been in fucking Europe or China. Like, so I would just say giving it everything is the key.
Yeah. And sticking with like a decision too. I feel like I used to want to be like I was all into like house music and stuff, and like wanted to like do that. And then I was kind of like listening to like house music and trying to like make that, but also like also learning how to make dubstep, which is weird, and like DJing a lot of dubstep. And I feel like, you know, you have guys like Squinto who got really big at like just like chopping stuff up, and I kind of had like wanted to do something like that at one point, but then I wanted to be like a house artist. But then I also wanted to just like produce like dubstep, but I feel like any of the ones that I would have just stuck with would have like worked, right? But like that's what's been successful for us, is like we've just like had each other and stuck with the vision, our vision, and it's a big deal, you know, like it's weird.
I love that, and that's such a great response, because it is the what you would think is the simple truth, but it is the fact of the matter, right? It's like you believe in something, you go for it. It's great to hear feedback, but take everything too seriously, and you're going to do something that you didn't want to do, right? Because there are so many producers nowadays that change lanes because there's a trend or there's a fad, and they want to follow that, and they want to get a Beatport Top 100, or they want to be on some spot.
Absolutely.
Well, what's going to happen to you 5 years from then, when you really never really liked making that music and you thought, well, this is my chance to get big? It's all about longevity, right, boys? It is all about a long period of time. I mean, a lot of the guys you're talking about, they're in their 30s, 40s right now, right? Late 20s.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I've been doing it for 10 plus years. And like, that's the thing. It's just crazy how, it takes time and persistence. Like, that's all there is to it.
You love it along the way, it's not so bad, right? And if you got a buddy that you can always get high with and have a good time, that's not so bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to come hang out with you guys for real.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
We'll definitely be out in Chicago sometime pretty soon, hopefully.
Sounds good, guys. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person then, but this has been so much fun in the meantime.
Yeah, thank you so much.